Hello and welcome to Coffee with Carey. Thank you for stopping by here today. I appreciate you being here. If you are new here, I'm Carey. I am a matchmaker and a dating coach. I live in the Chicago area, but I have clients all over the country. Thank you, video calls, which allows that to be possible. I've been doing Zoom way before COVID because I've got clients on both coasts. And I've even had a dating client who's out of the country, so how cool am I? Today I wanted to share some helpful tips, some hints, maybe a little advice for dating as an introvert. Do you know what you are? Do you know whether you're an introvert or an extrovert or an ambivert? Whether you're an extroverted introvert? Well, we can talk about that a little bit, but then we'll talk about some helpful information on dating if you are indeed introverted. If that's interesting, stick around. That's what's up right now. Okay, so I looked up ambivert, and basically it explains that, like most things, introversion and extroversion lie on a spectrum, and somewhere in the middle people are called ambiverts in the center, and they could lean a little bit more towards introverted or extroverted, just depending on our own personal genes and how we were raised, and then what feels most comfortable to us based on our experiences. The general explanation that I kind of follow is that if you are a person who gets energy and becomes most alive when with other people, then you would be considered an extrovert. And for those of us who that becomes exhausting at some point and we need alone time in order to refresh, rejuvenate, and ready ourselves to go out and do that again yet another day, we are considered introverted. However, there are many people like me who are fine with big groups of people. I could stand up in front of 3,000 people if you handed me a microphone and said, talk about what you do, with your dating clients, or tell us about anything I know about, really. So speaking to large groups would be totally comfortable, but talking to maybe 6 other people all night long at a dinner party would have me aching to get home and have some alone time to recover from that kind of socializing. So somewhere on the spectrum, as I'm sure you are, but if you happen to lean towards introverted, some of these ideas might be helpful to you. And I kind of wanted to say, if you have social anxiety and it's truly uncomfortable or painful for you to be around other people, that's probably a little further on the spectrum, and you might want to look into talking to somebody about that, because it seems like it would be uncomfortable and lead to more alone time than probably you would want. So check out a book, see a therapist. 2 good options for kind of shifting yourself along that spectrum to something that makes getting along with all of us out in the world even easier on you, because we're never stuck with any way that we are. We can always adapt and make changes. So I think the first tip for somebody who feels that they're introverted on a date would be that, because it would make you more comfortable to not have the focus on yourself and not have to always be thinking of new topics, would first of all be to be prepared and have some things you already know you want to talk about. You can use my conversation starters list. You can play some of the games I've mentioned in other videos, but your best friend is going to be those follow-up questions. I always tell clients, I want you to hear me on your shoulder saying, ask for follow-up questions. It keeps you from having to move on to a new topic, and it truly allows you to get to know this person better. And I'll use the example I used in the last video, which was, you ask your date, you have a passport? They say, yeah. Like, have you used it lately? Yeah, I was recently in Thailand and had a really good time. Let's just say you had recently been in Thailand, and your natural inclination might be to say, oh, I was in Thailand and I went with my friend Susan. Well, now all this pressure to keep the conversation going is immediately back on you, and you're going to take it in your own direction, and yet you didn't do what you came here to do, which is get to know this person. And you didn't really even create a bond, because what is that bond? You've both traveled to the same place. Much better off, when you hear me on your shoulder saying follow-up questions, is to say, oh, why did you decide to go to Thailand? Do you like to see all the touristy spots or see more how the people live who live there permanently? Did you make time to ride on an elephant? Didn't you think the street food was amazing? All of these questions will certainly allow you to know this person better and keep you on track with a conversation that you've already chosen instead of having to move on and constantly thinking of new material. So hear me saying follow-up questions. This idea came to me, number 2, because I had a client once who had me negotiate hand signals with her date. If something happened in the date, and it just happened to be she was losing interest because it was small talk and she was bored, that I was to tell him to put up a hand signal and let her know. And I feel that just her being forthcoming about the fact that she didn't want to have small talk was great. And I think that honesty and being upfront about that may work to your benefit if you are introverted. There's nothing wrong with being a little vulnerable, being truthful, and saying, first dates are just not my thing. I tend to get really quiet. If I get too quiet, it's not you seriously, but feel free to shoot me like a peace sign to remind me that I'm like sinking into my own natural tendency to like go into my head and think about stuff. So, I mean, if you're honest like that, people are going to just appreciate it as opposed to watching you like thinking, what am I going to talk about now? Or wherever your head goes with your type of introversion. So honesty is the best policy, and also that vulnerability helps build a bond even more quickly than if you kept that information to yourself. And my 4th idea for introverts is to do an activity date. Why force yourself to sit across from a person? And by golly, do not do a dinner date. That's kind of horrible for all of us, honestly, to know we are stuck at this table no matter how this conversation unfolds for at least 2.5 hours, with appetizers longer. So pick something fun to do that the activity can actually take off some of the pressure of having to be highly social. Bowling, mini golf, go to an amusement park. This time of year there's a bunch of neighborhood carnivals. Seek those out and do a couple rides, walk around people watching, play a couple games. Great distraction so all the focus isn't on the two of you. You can always do a hike or go on a bike ride. And I know I always say don't do a movie or a comedy club, but comedy club isn't horrible. I've actually done it. And if you combine it with a time that you can have conversation and discuss it afterwards and get to know each other better, it's not bad at all. So maybe start the date out with a comedy club. You can see what their sense of humor is. You can be entertained. You can watch them laugh. You can talk in the middle. I think there's usually an intermission. You can have a conversation. Then afterwards, go for a cup of coffee and have a conversation and get acquainted for an extra hour after the show. Number 5 would be kind of prepare the conversation. I'm not saying have a script, but there are like exercises. I do have a few videos called conversation starters that are questions you could throw in your phone and say, oh, if there's a lull in the conversation, oh, I wanted to play this game. Somebody said these were some fun questions on a first date. Let me get them out of my phone. Or you could watch that video I have. I will put it here because I can't think of the title. But it's about harnessing your stories and knowing which stories that you tell over and over again and being able to pull them out and share a story at the drop of a hat because it's kind of there at the ready and you've sort of memorized that list of your favorite stories to share with people because you find them funny or entertaining. And then the other option would be do some practicing of using your surroundings. It's really easy to, in an environment, if you're observant, which I'm not, but I can be if I focus on it, to pick up on something that you see and use it as a starting point for a conversation. I mean, I know this is silly, but something as simple as coffee cups can create a conversation that leads to another conversation. Practice doing that, picking things in your surrounding, and I think then when you're in an environment with another person, it comes really naturally that you can just riff on the French fries going by and say, oh my God, I bought my mom an entire cookbook about French fries because she just loves potatoes. Think outside the box, practice, you'll become really great at it. Number 6 in my dating advice for extroverts is keep it short, keep it simple. KISS, right? I already said don't plan a dinner date, but don't plan 3 things that you're gonna do that are gonna take the whole afternoon, 4 hours. Don't take a bike ride that you know is taking you 40 miles from home and it's going to take you 2 hours to get back. Go for a cup of coffee, go for a walk in the park. Something that you know that once the lunch is finished or once you finished your cup of coffee, pressure's off, you can say, oh, this was really fun. I'd love to do it again if you're open to it. This was great for a first date. I love being outside and being able to just sit out here, meet somebody new who's cool and enjoy the day. Keep it simple, keep it short. And then to wrap it up, number 7 is just don't be so hard on yourself. I know that being social when you don't feel it and it doesn't come naturally, and you know that your home base or your alone time is waiting for you, it can beckon to you. And just cut yourself a break. Know that it's part of just who you are and that you're doing the best you can. And the more you put yourself out there, for some people it does become easier. So give yourself a break and don't be so hard on yourself. You just are who you are. And it's what makes you comfortable. And if it's something you are looking to make adjustments to, you have total power to do that too. I hope you found this episode helpful or interesting. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to leave a comment or you have some other suggestions for us, I would just love that. I love when people have some stuff to add to the conversation, and I'd appreciate it. I appreciate you being here, actually, and I will look forward to the next time. Until then, though, have a good one.